Welcome to the world's #1 fitness business podcast for health club owners, gym managers, and fitness entrepreneurs. As always, this will be a great show as we have another expert to help your fitness business and your career. We'd like to thank our premier sponsor, Active Management, for supporting us, and we highly recommend becoming a member of Active Management to strengthen your business in 2016. There are loads of resources members receive, so join the Active Tribe today at www.activemgmt.com.au. Now that's enough from me. Let's welcome the show's amazing host, Chantal. What's on this week's show?
Thanks, Harper. Hi, everyone. I hope you've had a sensational week. As I'm recording this show, the Rio Olympics are coming to an end. And I don't know about you guys, but I have loved watching these games. Without a doubt, one of my favourite moments was the men's 200-metre semi-final, when we saw Usain Bolt and Andre de Grasse have that little bit of kind of joking around and friendly rivalry just before the finish line. It was one of those moments that you just can't help but smile and can't help but admire what incredible athletes they are. Anyway, as you can tell, I'm a little bit caught up in the Olympics, but it is time to talk about this week's show. Now, this week's special guest is Tema Frank. She is a best-selling author and has worked in customer experience, marketing, and usability testing for over 3 decades. I'll tell you a little bit more about Tema shortly, but during the interview, we talked about how to improve customer service in our teams, the importance of talking to our customers, automated processes versus the human element, and Tema leaves us with 3 tips on improving customer service within our business. Tribe, before we get into today's interview, I want to say a big shout out to our fantastic sponsor, Tribe Team Training, the complete small group training business system that's helping clubs make more money without having to sell more memberships. Now, if you want to find out more information about Tribe, head over to their website at www.tribeteamtraining.com.
This month, we have an awesome prize for people who subscribe to the show notes at www.fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Do it and you may be this month's winner. Now it's time for this week's guest.
Tema Frank is a best-selling author and has worked in customer experience marketing and usability testing for over 3 decades. In 2001, she founded Web Mystery Shoppers, the world's first company to test omni-channel customer service, web, phone, chat, email, and in-store. Using social media techniques before social media existed, she built a database of 75,000 mystery shoppers worldwide. Her clients have included the Bank of America, Expedia, the Royal Bank of Canada, government departments, businesses, and non-profits of all sizes. Tema is an acclaimed international speaker and a fellow podcaster. Her podcast show is called the Frank Reactions Podcast, and naturally, it's all about customer experience. Tema, are you ready to Fitspire our global FBP tribe of fitness business owners and managers?
Absolutely.
And are you ready to overload them with your pearls of wisdom, your strategies for success, and tips to make them better leaders and business people?
I will do my best.
Now, Tema, first and foremost, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's such a pleasure to have a fellow podcaster on the show, I might say. And I'll make sure that we include your Frank Reactions podcast in our show notes so everyone can check it out. Now, I just shared with our tribe your bio, and it is completely amazing. You have had years of success. Tell us, have there been any roadblocks or any hurdles along that road to success?
Oh, absolutely. Tons of them. I think one of the biggest ones was, and actually this is kind of a cool story, when I was building my previous business, which was Web Mystery Shoppers. And what we did is we would send people to essentially mystery shop a client's website. So I'd send a bunch of people to a website and they'd give feedback on where they were hitting barriers and hurdles. And in order to do it, I needed to build up a huge database of people that I could draw on so that they'd be like the customer's target customers. So I needed thousands of people in this database. And I had just moved to a new city, and this was in 2001. So there weren't cloud servers. So I had to switch to a new server. And so the new hosting company said, no problem, we'll send an email to everyone in your database telling them, that it'll be down for a day or two, but everything will be fine. So Friday afternoon and late afternoon on a Friday, I start getting phone calls from friends of mine saying, Tema, why are you bombarding us with email? And I said, what are you talking about? Well, I did some digging, and it turned out that this company had a glitch in their system. So the first person would get their email. Then when the one went out to the second person, the first person would get two. and so on and so on. So we had flooded everybody's email boxes. And of course, here it was an internet-focused company. So talk about killing your credibility. Right? And by the time we stopped it, it had gone to, I think, about 650 people.
Wow.
And so it's a Friday afternoon. I am in my home-based office fighting tears. And my 5-year-old daughter walked in and asked what I was so upset about. And I did my best to explain it to her. And she said, well, why don't you just call them all and tell them you're sorry? And I started to say, I can't call 600 people. And then I thought, she's right, we can. And so the guy who had messed up and I got on the phone, and we spent that weekend calling 600 and something people. And people were so blown away that we did that we even had people who originally had been threatening to sue ending up saying, can I help you make these calls?
Wow.
Yeah.
What a way to turn around a bad situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's a great example. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Tema. Now, I want to chat to you. We're going to talk all about customer service, and I know that you're not from the fitness industry, but if you look at it from an observational point of view, where do you see customer service when it comes to the fitness industry?
Well, it's such a huge part of it because it is a personal service-based business. And actually, one of the reviews that's up on the Amazon.ca site right now is from a fellow who is my personal trainer, actually. And to my surprise, wanted to read the book and wrote an incredible review, which was really nice of him. But, what he points out there is that in the fitness business, it's all about customer service, because if you're not making your customers feel good and feel that they're accomplishing something and meeting their goals, they won't keep coming.
Absolutely. Tema, we're actually seeing a reduction in staff levels in clubs across the globe. What's your thoughts? Do you think that, that reduction will impact customer service levels within the business?
Well, I think it absolutely will if companies don't think through how they're doing things. So it may well be that there are things that your organization is doing that are perhaps not as efficient or as effective or as useful to the customers as they could be. So what I would recommend if you're working in a company where you do have to cut back staff is look at what are the things that we do for our customers? How do our customers interact with us? Are there things we could do that would make that process easier for them, but at the same time more efficient for us? And that would free up what remaining staff time we have to be much more effective in helping the customers.
Absolutely. And I guess we're seeing a lot of automation come into our fitness businesses from the point of actually walking through the gates and flashing your membership card onto a machine as opposed to having a human check it in. I mean, where does that human factor fit in when it comes to the customer service equation?
Well, I think there's nothing wrong with things like having people scan a card as they go in. I think most people, when they're going in, they're on a mission. They're there to accomplish something. If it can be done quickly and efficiently, that's good. Where I think in a fitness business, it's really important to have the human connection, is to have the humans interacting with them while they're on the floor trying to do stuff. And making it clear to them that you care about them and their health and their fitness, and giving them little tips and advice to make sure they're doing things right and seeing results. So having that personal connection that helps keep them motivated and inspired and healthy, I think is more important than getting all fussed about whether you have a person sitting at the front desk.
In a gym environment, how can we influence our teams to change or, say, to improve their customer service?
Well, I think partially it's a question of what sort of reward structures do you have for your staff? So if your reward structure is all about pushing membership plans that may or may not be a great fit for that individual customer, you're not going to have those great relationships forming, and people will be trying to sell as much as they can as quickly as they can, which, might see a revenue bump in the short run, but won't necessarily develop those long-term relationships that keep them customers year after year. So I think that to start with, you want to look at the reward systems. I think you also really want to be talking to your frontline staff about what could we be doing better that would make it easier for you to interact with customers better? What would make it easier for you to do your job? What would make it more fun for you and for our customers? So I think if you're thinking of it sort of through that lens, that will help. That plus just generally creating a team environment where people are encouraged and rewarded for helping each other and supporting each other instead of competing against each other.
Can you share with us any, let's say, early warning signs within a business that we might have a customer experience problem brewing?
Sure. I mean, first, there are the obvious ones like renewals or sales altogether are dropping. That's a pretty good clue.
Good indication.
Exactly. But beyond that, there are other things. For instance, has there been an increase in the number of complaints? And what sorts of complaints? Are there more and more cases of equipment that's not working? Those types of repairs that are needed and aren't happening will start to irritate customers who come expecting a certain level of service. But then there are even some more subtle things, like if it's getting harder and harder to recruit and keep good workers, that suggests that you've got a problem in your business model or in how you're treating people. Or if absenteeism is increasing, or even just, going back to your question of a minute ago, if you're finding that your staff really aren't keen to interact with customers, that will lead to unhappy customers. You need to hire the people who really enjoy working with customers. And sometimes you need to ease out people for whom that isn't a natural way of being. And then finally, the other area that I really think companies should look at, especially if you've got a bit of a management team, if there's either no disagreement in the management team or tons of disagreement, either of those two extremes indicate a problem that will lead to customer service and customer experience problems. So if there's tons of disagreement, obviously it's dysfunctional, your staff are getting mixed messages, so that's not going to work well. But if there's no disagreement, it means people don't feel that they can actually say what they think. And if you're not hearing the truth, you're not getting the best from your people or for your customers.
You gave us a great example earlier when you talked about how to turn around a bad situation. So if we are in that environment where we're seeing those signs and we're picking up on those things that you've just identified, can you give us a couple of tips on what are some immediate actions that we can do to start, addressing them and turning those things around?
I would say the most important thing is start talking to your existing customers and to recent defectors about what's going on from their perspective. What could you be doing to make them happier? What could you be doing better? People who left you, find out why they really left you. And then you may want to, if you've lost a lot, you may want to signal to them that you're actually serious about making changes and give them some incentive to try you again once you feel that you've actually made some changes. But even with your existing customers, I always recommend that in any organization, the top leadership should be talking to a random sampling of customers every week and just find out, how's it going for you? Are you happy with the experience you're having here? What could we do better?
That's a perfect segue, actually, into my next question, because we quite frequently have our wonderful listeners emailing us in questions, and I'm hoping that you might be able to tackle this particular one, which came in from Miles from Florida in the US. And Miles said to us, we ask our customers to fill out surveys, but they almost never do. How can we get more customer feedback?
I think we're all overloaded with requests to fill in surveys.
Yeah.
I would argue that the most important thing you can do right now, if you're having trouble getting customers to fill in surveys, is actually talk to them.
Yeah.
Don't ask them to fill in surveys. Have someone genuine in your organization, not some low-paid dial for dollars person, to have some senior person call them and say, look, we really want to know how things are going. And again, just pick a random sampling of people and start getting some good ideas from them about what could improve. Then you'll find that over time, if people feel more commitment to the organization, they will be more willing to fill in surveys as time goes by. But you're always going to have a problem with that now, just because people are so bombarded with surveys. So I'd say don't rely on surveys. There's no question that, if you get a large response, it'll be more statistically valid than random sampling conversations. But unless you're dealing with millions of customers, you don't necessarily need that statistical validity. You need the insight that you get with qualitative research, with actually talking to people and exploring what they're feeling.
Great example, a great suggestion there, Tema. Thank you. Now, I mentioned earlier in your bio, and you mentioned it too, you have a fabulous new book coming out. Yay! Now, Do you want to tell us a little bit about People Shock? Give us a bit of an overview. What's the book about?
Sure. So the book is called People Shock, The Path to Profits When Customers Rule. And the book is about the increased importance of that human factor as we automate more and more. So you talked earlier about the example of the automatic flash a card check-in when you're going to a gym. And that's fine. People don't mind that increased automation if it serves them well and makes things more efficient. But at the same time, it means there's fewer opportunities for the human connection. And that means that those opportunities that do exist take on an ever greater importance. So that fundamentally is what the book is about. And then within it, I talk about what I call the 3P profit formula of promise, people, and process. And you need to get all three of those right to succeed, I believe, in the current era, and particularly going forward as things get more competitive. So the promise is basically, why are we doing what we're doing? What motivates us to be in this business? How are we different from others? What would be inspiring for somebody to work for us, for somebody to come and work out with us? So that's your promise. And you need to get a pretty clear grip on why you're doing what you're doing, because that will help give you a filter as you run into problems. It'll help you analyze them from that perspective. So does it really fit? Does it make sense with what we're trying to accomplish? Yeah, we could buy loads of new technology, but is that going to help people get more fit? Maybe not. So it gives you that screen. The second thing is people. And there I'm talking about both the external people, like your customers, and internal people like staff, but also a whole range of other people who influence the success of your business. So relationships with your suppliers, relationships with if you've got a franchise, with your franchisees. All those relationships will ultimately have a spillover effect on customer experience as well. Because if you aren't handling those relationships well, they're not going to give you priority if there's a problem. So all those types of relationships, even with your lenders, those are important relationships. So all those aspects of the internal and external human relationships. So that's the second piece. We've got promise, people. And the third one, and I've touched on it a bit already in this interview, is the process one. And that's where I think there's a lot of room for improvement in a lot of organizations, because we get in a habit of doing things a certain way. So we sort of figure that's the right way to do it. And often the way that we started no longer makes sense. And often you can do things in a much better way, but you have to look at it from the customer's perspective. And a problem that companies often have is they look at it just from their perspective and they say, well, gee, if everyone just flashes a card, it's going to save us the money of having a receptionist. That's fine. But then what will we do to deal with the fact that they don't have that friendly smile when they walk in? How can we incorporate something that will still give them that good feeling? So you want to look at all your processes from a customer perspective. How can we make them more efficient and more effective while maintaining really high levels of satisfaction?
Tema, one of the things that struck me when I was reading the book was just how up to the minute the information was that you captured within the book. I was reading it and thinking, wow, this must have been quite a challenge because the world as it is, is changing so rapidly. And I'm thinking, as you're writing this, obviously, new things are happening every single day. And I wanted to just point out to our tribe that one of the areas that I found was really interesting is you do a whole section where you talk about millennials. Yeah. And that's absolutely something that we're kind of, I guess, tackling in the fitness industry is understanding that market better and working with that market. So I should just point out that if that's an area that any of our tribe are trying to understand better, you have a really good capture within the book. Yeah. All about millennials.
Well, it's funny that you say that because one of the things I was researching this book for 3 years before I finally forced myself to just sit down and write because it was exactly that problem. Things kept changing. So I kept adding and adding and adding. And finally, actually, what got me to sit down and write was I broke my foot. And it was like, okay, I can't go anywhere. I might as well get the book written. So it's a fairly drastic way to get yourself writing, but it can work.
It worked. What was that? And what was the 3 years ago when you started writing? What was that inspiration? What was it that drove you to write?
It's just been a lifelong frustration with poor human experiences, both as an employee and as a customer, and that's really been a theme that I've studied and thought about a lot throughout my entire career. And one of my first jobs, I was working in a bank and we had opened a whole bunch of new bank branches and we were trying to differentiate ourselves on great customer service. So our slogan was always ahead in personal service. We hired staff from bars and restaurants and anywhere we could find people who really were friendly and got customer service, understood it. We figured we'll train them on the banking. So we had great people, but what was going on was the head office where all the transactions had to get processed, they were a mess. And so it got to the point where there's only so often your fabulous frontline staff can say, I'm really sorry, before customers get upset and leave you. And so it sort of got me thinking about, okay, there is this people element. You got to treat your customers, but also your staff right. Because if you have unhappy staff, they're not going to serve your customers well. And also there is this whole back end element and they need to be connected. And what was striking me is I felt that there wasn't enough of that connection of all three elements of promise, people, and process.
Tema, on to the important stuff. How do we find the book? Where do we go?
All right. Well, the book is available on Amazon. It theoretically, I think, even might be on Amazon on the Australian version, but I'm sure the Kindle would be. But it is available certainly on .com and .ca and .uk and the Kindle, I'm sure. The electronic book is available in most places where electronic books are sold as well.
Fabulous. And I briefly mentioned earlier your podcast. So if people want to go and check out the Frank Reactions podcast, what's the URL they need to head over to?
They can just go to frankreactions.com and they'll see links there, or just look it up on iTunes or Stitcher or any podcast app.
Love it. Love it. Okay, now I'm hoping that you can leave us with a little bit of Fitbizpiration today and share with us your 3 tips to improve customer experiences.
Okay, tip number 1, listen. That's really the biggie, is listen to your staff, listen to your customers, listen to your prospects. Really, really listen and act on what they're telling you. That's the biggest. Other than that, I would say have a clear guiding sense of why you're trying to do what you're trying to do. And the third then would be examining all your processes from that customer perspective.
Excellent. And the fourth will be to go and check out a copy of People Shock.
You bet.
Tema, look, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us today. I do encourage all of our tribe to head out, grab a copy of People Shock. I'm really confident. I've read the book and I'm really confident that you will take away a lot that you can implement within your businesses there. So, Tema, thank you so much for joining us today on the Fitness Business Podcast.
Well, thank you for having me, Chantal.
The Fitness Business Podcast is very appreciative of our podcast partners. Here's a quick word from one of our partners.
As you know, our goal at the Fitness Business Podcast is to help you grow your fitness business. So I love it when I can tell you about new products, programs, and solutions to help you do just that. Our show would not be possible without the support of our sponsors. And one of those awesome sponsors is Visual Fitness Planner. But before I tell you more about them, let me ask you these questions. What is your membership closing percentages? What percentage of your members at the point of sale sign up for a complimentary orientation session? What percentage of your new members actually show up for their complimentary orientation session? And most importantly, what percentage of your membership buys personal training? These are the numbers that you have to be asking yourself and measuring every single day. As the old saying goes, if you're not measuring your numbers, you're not managing your numbers. A club's set, show, close numbers are significantly improved because of the Visual Fitness Planner. The VFP provides a turnkey system for marketing, capturing, and integrating new members into a healthy lifestyle change. The VFP automates your existing sales, marketing, and orientation systems with the power of its visually impacting technology. VFP calculates a person's health risks for diseases. It predicts their health age. It creates a before and after 3D image of their body and calculates how long it will take to achieve their goals. And in this process, increases your membership and personal training sales and overall member retention. To check out more about the VFP, head over to their website at myvfp.com.au. And of course, a copy of that website link is in today's show notes.
It's time for the Fitness Business Podcast Wrap.
Here are my top takeaways from this week's show. Tema said when influencing our team's customer service behaviour, start by first looking at their incentive structure. She said top managers should be talking to a random sample of customers every single week to find out how their customer experience is. She said if your customers don't like to fill in surveys, which we know they don't always do, then go out and talk to them directly instead. She also said that often we can improve our processes, but you need to look at it from a customer's perspective. Tribe, this week is your last chance to enter the draw for this month's giveaway. Sean Greeley, the founder and CEO of Net Profit Explosion and our podcast guest from back on show 63, has generously given the Fitness Business Podcast a ticket to his upcoming mega training event valued at $499. Now, you can win a ticket to this event. All you need to do is subscribe to the show notes at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. If you've already subscribed, then you're automatically in the draw. Now, the mega training event will be held in Australia, the US, and the UK. So if you're the lucky winner, you can choose your closest city. You have just until August 25th, that's not much longer, to enter. So make sure that you subscribe today. That's fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. And a huge thank you to Sean and the team from NPE for this fantastic prize.
Quickfire 5.
Tribe, I am so excited to be welcoming today's guest. It is Andrew Simmons, the founder and CEO of Vision Personal Training. Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Now, are you ready for your Quickfire 5 questions?
Hell yeah. Bring it on.
Let's do it. Okay, so tell us, why do you do what you do?
I'm just fortunate I can transform clients' lives as well as help people have great careers.
Great answer. And what's the best advice that you've ever received?
Givers gain.
Talk me through that.
It's one of those things they talk about in BNI and Business Networking International, in that around the concept, you'll never achieve your goals until you help other people achieve their goals. So that's what it's all about. Like for me, it's you just got to help people. If you help people achieve their goals, then your business will become successful.
That's great advice. And tell us, what's a personal habit that helps you become better at what you do?
I consistently set goals. I try to live by every day the statement, you never start the day till it's finished on paper.
I really like that.
Yeah, if I do that every day, I tell my day is so much more productive than if I just sort of come into the office and I try and wing it. It just doesn't work. I actually don't feel satisfied if I don't do it.
Yeah, I really like that habit. I think it's a good one to have. And what's one book that you'd recommend and why?
Definitely the E-Myth. And the reason why I say that is because it's one of the first business books I ever read, and it stopped me from just working as a sole trader personal trainer, just out there training clients, and it made me start working on my business rather than in my business. So I think it's just a foundation book for anybody who wants to grow their business.
Good one. And last but not least, why should our tribe come back next week and listen to the main show?
Because I think they're going to get a lot of take-home tips on what not to do as well as what to do to become successful.
I like that. I think both those things are important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Andrew, thank you so much for doing our Quick 5-5, and we'll chat to you next week.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Can't wait.
Get ready for this week's bonus segment, your extra injection of information, education, and inspiration to strengthen your fitness business.
Tribe, it is that time of the month again where I say a very warm welcome back to our resident people expert, Liesl Klebe. Hey, Liesl.
Hey, Chantel. How are you going?
I'm really well. It's great to have you back on the show again.
Lovely to be back.
Now, we've got quite a lot of ground to cover today, and it's all around love, isn't it? It's all around love.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about love, some love brands and some tough love.
Ooh, I like the sound of that. So let's get stuck into it. Tell us, you're going to talk to us today about love brands. What is a love brand?
So the best way to probably explain a love brand is when you can create a product that is so well acknowledged and loved by people that they don't question it when it comes on the market. So let's have a think about something like Apple, for example. When the new iPhone comes out, there's not a lot of people sitting around going, ooh, is that going to be a decent phone? Or is it going to look funky and nice? Am I going to want it? People just basically jump online and waitlist themselves to buy it because they love that brand and they trust that that brand is going to deliver and have integrity in terms of their product.
Okay, so tell us then, how does that fit into a fitness business model?
So in terms of a love brand, I like to really use a lot of that concept in terms of working with my team in a fitness team. If you can create the team or the tribe or your club, if you like, as what you're creating is a love brand for the members. So when you deliver an event, you want that event to be something members are going to book into, register and come to because they know you're going to deliver a quality set of classes on any given day, say at a Super Saturday, for instance. And still working with that theme, you're really wanting to move your team towards feelings and not obligations. So if you can get to the point where your team is saying to you, I want to make you proud of me and I love what I do and I'm coming to work because I'm engaged with everyone and I'm feeling love for the club or the team or both, then they're coming more from a good place of feeling rather than a place of obligation, and you're going to get much better results from that.
I think that example that you gave of doing an event is a really great example because I've experienced that firsthand with you, in fact, when, you would suggest an event coming up and then without very much encouragement at all, the instructors would really get excited and get on board. And is that what you mean by love brand?
Yeah, it's very much that sense of buy-in and commitment and engagement. The feedback I'm getting at the moment from my current team is that they feel like they're on a winning team. And when you feel like you're on a winning team, you want to be a part of everything that team's doing. You want to be a part of achieving those goals together, and you want to be a part of the success that you're going to have as a team. So there's a love thing going on there where there's so much investment and engagement. The people are doing it for the love of it and for the commitment and for the end result, as opposed to feeling that this is a job or this is an obligation, and consequently they're not getting quite the same results at the end of the day.
I love the mindset of having your tribe on a winning team. That sounds really,
it's fabulous,
nice.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so let's flip the coin a little bit and let's talk about the tough love side of things.
Okay, so I think it is an area that some people are afraid to go into in terms of if you are an inspirational leader and you'd like to be a leader of your team as opposed to a manager, or if that is predominantly the way that you work, you still need to be capable of making the hard calls and you still need to be capable of giving the tough love when it's necessary. And I think for me, in the 15 years that I've been working as a GFM, the people I've given the toughest love to are the people who have been the most grateful to me at the end. Because I think at the end of the day, it indicates that A, you're watching, listening, and you're noticing. B, you care enough to invest your time and knowledge and experience in developing that person. And C, you're going to follow through in seeing that come to fruition and acknowledge them when they do some of the things you've asked them to do.
It can obviously be a little bit daunting to give that tough love that you talk about. Are there any tips that you can give us in regards to, say, approaching that situation, approaching a conversation with someone where you need to be quite tough with them?
I think the most important thing is being really transparent and setting a clear benchmark and clear expectations. So if you are saying to your team, this is the skill set that I'm looking for, and this is the way that I'm going to assess you, and this is where I want you to be and where I believe you can be, if you then go into a situation where you need to say, look, I think you're not quite there yet. I think we need to do some work together, and here's the areas you might like to focus on. That person, if you've been very clear and explained that you're in this journey with them, you're going to help to develop them, you're going to get across the line. And again, you come back to that love brand. It's a winning team they're trying to be a part of and that they want to be a part of, and they know they're going to have to put some work in to get there. So because there is that love brand thing going on, they're prepared to really invest. So I've had some people audition for me about 6 times across 12 months, just so desperate to be on the team. And each time I've said, I think you're not quite ready. Here's what we need to work on together. But they've been so committed to getting on that team, they just keep coming back to me. And at the end of the day, they're now some of the strongest instructors that I have. But there was a lot of tough love going on there in the first place from me.
It's a really great example, Liesl. Thank you so much. So basically we are working towards that love brand, so getting towards establishing a winning team within our fitness business, but also choosing the times and knowing when it's necessary to implement that little bit of tough love and have those slightly harder conversations. But as you say, be very, very transparent in the approach to them and in the process that you take with that person.
Yeah, and I think the only additional thing I'd say there too is people respect boundaries, and they need boundaries. They need you to be clear on, this is what I want, this is when I want it, and this is the way we're going to work. So I think people should not be afraid of saying, look, here's the parameters under which we're working on this team, or here are the expectations. Those sorts of things make people feel like they're being guided and they're on track with what they're doing as a team.
That sounds really good. Now, before I let you go today, Liesl, I have one other little favour to ask you.
Shoot.
I'm hoping that you might be able to talk to us a little bit about the GFM Roundtable.
Yes, look, we've got a couple of FitBiz brunches coming up for GFMs, which are a perfect thing to come to if you're A, GFM and want to upskill yourself and become even better at what you do, or B, if it's something that you aspire to do at some point in your career. The FitBiz brunches are happening on the 2nd of September in Sydney at the Revesby Workers Club, and the 16th of September in Melbourne at the Mantra in St Kilda. And this is a chance for people to get together over brunch and just have a chit-chat about what's going on in their club. I'm going to be delivering 3 45-minute sessions that are talking about some key things to do with Group X and how people can take those straight back to their clubs and start to utilise them and do their job even better.
For our tribe in Sydney and Melbourne, this is a really unique and valuable opportunity, and I strongly recommend that you register to come along to the brunch. It's going to be a sensational learning opportunity, a great networking opportunity. So, Liesl, tell us, how do we register?
So the best thing to do would be to contact Active Management. They can book you into the sessions. It's all on social media, so you can have a look at the events up there, click on those links, they'll take you straight through. You need to purchase tickets for the event, so jump on there and do that beforehand. But it'll be a wonderful meeting of minds and exchanging of ideas, and people will walk away with so much that they can implement straight away.
Oh, that sounds really, really good. Liesl, thank you so much for joining us once again on the Fitness Business Podcast, and we can't wait to have you back again next month.
Anytime. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Liesl.
Cheers.
Thanks for joining me for another week of the Fitness Business Podcast. And remember, what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.
Great show this week that you should be suffering DOMs, delayed onset mind soreness, as you are overloaded, and that's when your mind is strengthened. You and your business have been strengthened thanks to the amazing support of our premier sponsor, Active Management. Check out www.activemgmt.com.au, only if you want to strengthen your business and your leadership. Don't forget all today's links and notes are found at www.fitnessbusinesspodcast.com, where you can also subscribe and never miss a show and maybe win a prize. Next week is another incredible guest with Chantal, so get ready for more Fit Bizpiration.